Dear students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am VN Prabhakar, visiting faculty, Indian Institute of Technology, Gandhinagar. I belong to the Archaeological Sciences Center there. We carry out a lot of research on the archaeological material using the latest scientific techniques available at IIT Gandhinagar. Coming to the module, we will be looking into the Indus crafts and arts, which is a very important aspect of the Indus Valley civilization, forming part of the overall subject of the pre and proto history of India. So our main objectives will be to understand the main craft activities of Harappan civilization and its artistic value. It will also help us to understand the technology behind the craft activities and the materials used. Here you can see some examples. You can see the potsherds of the Harappan civilization or the Indus Valley civilization, in which paintings are depicted, some motifs are depicted in an artistic manner. There are cornelian beads, hallmark of the Harappan civilization or the Indus Valley civilization. They are highly decorative and are very good examples of the craft activities. To develop the Indus civilization, the craft activities, it had a very solid basing. It had a very long preceding Chalcolithic cultures based on the utilitarian, administrative, decorative and markers of socio-cultural status. These crafts, they help us in better understanding by looking into the ethnographic parallels also. These craft activities, they are very good indicators of the day-to-day use, how they were administered using the seals. For example, the seals were used for administration purpose, how they are very highly decorative for artistic, and also of the socio-cultural status, because certain objects, they are not available locally, they have to be procured from a very far away distance, so they have a high values. Here in this slide also you can see many objects ranging from steatite, where it's a very soft stone, the one button is depicted with two holes, so it is very soft stone. But the reddish color stones, they are all cornelian, they are very hard to make. It's a different kind of technology developed by the Harappans. Then also the Harappans mastered a varied technologies related to shell, metal, seal technology, bead technology, etc. We will be looking into these aspects one by one. Some of the examples through which we can better understand this Indus craft activities are ceramics or the pottery technology, which is one of the important aspects which the early humans developed from the very beginning, starting from the Neolithic age onwards, and gradually developing into the sculptures and architectural members. They were also producing a lot of sculptures ranging from stone to terracotta, figurines, then lapidary making. Under the lapidary making, we will be looking into the bead manufacturing of various materials by the Harappans. Then bangles. Bangles is an important aspect of the art activities. They produced various kind of bangles ranging from very mundane things like terracotta into shell, copper and other important materials. Then seals and sealings, they form a very important aspect of the Indus civilization, because they are administrative documents which were used for transactions and trade activities. Another important aspect is the shell objects, because from the shell which is obtained from the coastal regions of Rann of Kutch or the Gujarat coast up to the Karachi coast, they were manufacturing various kind of objects like bangles, inlay pieces, and they were also trading with the shell objects. Then another important aspect is faience. Faience is a refractory material which is not available in nature. The Harappans discovered the use of crushing quartz, then heating it, then coloring it and producing various kind of objects. They were also duplicating stone objects in faience, because faience was very easy to manufacture, very easy to mold and create various kind of objects. Stoneware is another important high technology developed by the Harappans. Even today with the available technology, we are unable to duplicate that. That is another important aspect of the Indus civilization. Then metallurgy is another important aspect which started nearly 3,000 to 4,000 years before the Indus civilization, but reached its peak during the Indus civilization by various kind of alloying techniques which they employed. Then textiles, I mean, we don't get lot of evidence on the textile proper from the excavations, but based on the other negative evidences, we can understand a little about the textiles also. Coming to the first aspect of the craft activities, we will look into the ceramics. Ceramics is the basic aspect of any civilization. They were modeled from the clay available from the nearby sources, and they could manufacture either through hand or wheel made, or partly wheel made, or partly handmade. So it is a combination of technologies, and it gradually developed. And during the Indus civilization, it was a hallmark pottery which is of a red in color and painted with black color motifs. Various kind of motifs were painted on in the ceramics. They consist of simple wavy lines to animal motifs, to fish, to crisscrossings, to fish scale motifs, various kind of artistic motifs which were available during that period, and the artisans which they were looking into the surrounding environment, they were depicting all those things on the pottery. The pottery of the Indus civilization, they consist of various shapes and forms which are used in the day-to-day life, like bowls, dishes, dish on stand. Dish on stand is one hallmark pottery of the Indus civilization, which is a dish on a pedestal or a stand. So that is a very high class pottery. Then another important pottery is S-shaped jar. Then all kind of potteries, plates, perforated jars. Perforated jar is one important aspect of the ceramics found in the Indus civilization. The exact function of which is yet to be understood, but we can kind of think of what could be the function based on some analogy available from the contextual studies in the civilization. Then one more pottery is the black slip jar. Black slip jars, they were basically used for trading. They were large containers with a conical base or a pointed base which can be fitted into the deck of a ship, and it can be transported. Various commodities can be put into the black slip jar, and the mouth can be sealed, and a sealing can be placed for security. And these were traded far into the Oman region and the Mesopotamian region. There are various kind of storage jars, cooking jars, then small cups and beakers, goblets. Goblets is like a modern day kullad. Like in North India, it can be called as a kullad. It is a disposable cup that is available plenty from the Harappan context. There are many miniature vessels, very small vessels, hardly 2-3 centimeters in height, and they represent the overall Harappan or the Indus ceramic repertoire in a smaller context. And there are various other shapes, and everything is related to the day-to-day activities. Some are very sophisticated, very elaborately painted, some are unpainted, and it indicates the various contexts and also indicates the socio-economic status of the local people. How they were heating, how they were baking these ceramics, because it requires a complex technology. It requires understanding of the pyrotechnology, exceeding temperatures, how they were controlling, reaching high degrees of temperature, maybe 700, 800 degrees, to create various kind of environments inside a kiln, and they were producing various colors. We have got evidence of these kilns from various Harappan sites like Barur, Khirsara, Rakhigadi, and others. The most important discovery of an updraft kilns, because the Harappans or the Indus civilization people, they used the updraft kilns. It is from Khirsara, which was recently excavated by Archaeological Survey of India in Gujarat, where we have found nearly 40 to 50% complete kiln, so that we can get a very good idea of the kilns and the kind of baking activities which they manufactured. We also find pottery along with the burials. Burials is another important aspect of the Indus civilization, and large number of ceramics are found in association with the burials. They are found placed towards the head portion of the deceased person, so that whatever he was having during his lifetime can also be entered into the burial, so that he can have it for his afterlife. So there is a belief in afterlife. So here you can see examples of some of the pottery of the Indus civilization. On the top row there are the storage jars, S-shaped jar, the plates, and the conical base you can see, that is the black slip jars, so which was extensively used for trading activities. And in the middle picture you can see one example of a perforated jar. We will see some more example in the next slide. We have also these pointed based goblets. This is a very good indicator of chronology from the site of Harappa and other regions from Punjab, because this pointed base in a goblet, it appears around 2100 BCE and ends around 1900 BCE. So it's a very good example of a chronological indicator also, the pottery. And the bottommost two images, they come from the burial pottery, mostly from cemetery R37 from Harappa. It both indicates they were using both painted pottery as well as unpainted pottery. Painted pottery in an earlier context and unpainted pottery in the later context. So next slide, we can see the importance of the updraft kilns. The left hand side you can see the lower portion of a huge updraft kiln excavated at Kirsara by Dr. Jitendra Nath of Archaeological Survey of India. Here you can see the frontal opening where the fuel is entered, fuel is burnt, and the platform in which the holes are depicted on which the unbaked pottery are kept, and there's a hemispherical dome comes over the top so that the pottery is baked inside. And the right hand side one can see the kind of painted motifs which the Harappans developed, various kind of motifs which I had said earlier, intersecting circle motifs. Then people leaf is one important motif which the Harappans and the Indus civilization people, they kind of venerated and they depicted on the pottery also. And there are other painted motifs like fish motif or fish scale patterns also. Then peacock is also depicted in some of the pottery. One classic example is from Channudado, where a complete storage jar is depicted with peacock and fish scale motifs. So there is other pottery also, like again one can see a black slip jar here depicted. It is from Dholavira, one of the largest site in Gujarat. It's a near complete black slip jar, and towards the top left you can see another kind of pottery known as reserved slipped ware. This is a very important pottery in terms of identification of a region from which it belongs to, because this kind of pottery, it is only found from the region Kutch region of Gujarat. And this type of pottery, it was used for trading also. The Indus Valley people, when they went for trading to the Mesopotamian civilization, they carried this pottery, and we find this kind of pottery from the Mesopotamian sites also. And the bottom two pictures, you can see the perforated jar in context. As I told you earlier, how these perforated jars were used, because perforated jars, they were not used in isolation, they were used in association with a bigger vessel. Here you can see from burial context from Harappa as well as from Kalibanga, the perforated jar is placed inside a bigger vessel so that it was used in conjunction with the another vessel. So it could have been used for some kind of distillation purpose, the exact purpose which we don't know. Coming to the next aspect, it is on the sculptures and architectural members. The Indus Valley people, they produced various sculptures and architectural members. It was of limestone, sandstone, grey stone, various kind of materials were used by the Harappans, and most of them, the sculptures, most of them, they are in a broken condition, found in a broken condition, but they are normally seated and cross-legged. They are mostly of male sculptures, evidence of a cloak covering the upper body, covering the left shoulder, and the right shoulder is partly exposed. The most important sculpture from the Harappan civilization is the priest king, so-called priest king, which is made of steatite, which has an elaborate inlaid cloak. The upper portion is preserved while the lower portion is broken of the sculptures. Architectural members are also found from various Harappan sites. The important site are Harappa, Mohenjo-daro and Dholavira. They are very good examples of sophistication in workmanship, and particularly from the site of Dholavira, where we find these kind of stone architectural members in situ in their original condition, placed in the gateways, and we also have evidence of a quarry site from near Dholavira, where we can see evidence of chipping of the limestone blocks removed from the original bedrock, and the initial chipping was done at the site, and later they were moved to the site for elaborate polishing and final finishing, and these are all ultimately traded even up to Mohenjo-daro, even Harappa, which are located nearly 800 to 1000 kilometers away from Dholavira. Now you can see the images. images of the priest king. One can see the sculptures. You can see all are seated and cross-legged, and the top one there from Mohenjo-daro. The bottom left is from again Mohenjo-daro. It is the so-called priest king. It is made of steatite or soapstone. One can see the elaborate trefoil pattern decoration on the cloth and the inlaid pattern on decorated. So various interpretations are being made. These inlaid patterns could be of various materials, either could be shell or gold or any other exotic material, but it seems that this person is a very important person during the Indus civilization, and that's why a very elaborate decoration is shown. Another elaborate decoration is on the forehead of this priest king, which is a fillet, and evidence for golden fillet has been obtained from the Indus civilization. Towards the right, one can see the stone sculptures from Dholavira. This is another important stone sculpture without a head, and again the posture is similar to the other stone sculptures found from Indus Valley sites, and this indicates that this kind of personalities depicted in stone in various kind of mediums, or of some important personalities who were instrumental in some administrative aspects of the Indus civilization. So next we will see the importance of the stone members, architectural members from Dholavira. One can see the top images. You can see the architectural members in their original condition, how they were fixed in the original condition in the gates, or the square blocks over that biconcave blocks. Then above that there are the truncated spheroidal columns. So these columns, they were ultimately traded up to Mohenjo-daro and even up to Harappa, traveling more than 800 to 1000 kilometers. On the right hand side, one can see the wavy pattern of the architectural members. These were recently excavated from Harappa. They were not found in like what it is depicted here, but later when it was fitted one above another, it exactly fitted into. So these kind of columns could have been in existence during the Indus Valley civilization. So next aspect is the terracotta figurines. The Indus Valley people, they were making various kind of terracotta figurines from the clay, which is available in plenty from the sites nearby. So they were fashioning various kind of objects. They were making male, female and animal figurines, both ritualistic and associated with the fertility as well as playful things. The female figurines, they were largely seen as the fertility cult, the mother goddess figurines as interpreted. And the various kind of playful things, it consists of terracotta wheels indicating as spokes of a wheel, then kind of hollow framed and solid framed toy cart frames. All these were used by the people, by the children for playing. We have examples of the wheels with hubs, then wheels in which spokes are shown by striped decorations in various paintings. We have also animal figurines. Animal figurines are of a very wide variety. They also indicate the diversity in the faunal assemblage, what kind of animals they were living during that period. And some animal figurines, they were stylistic and also served as whistles, like for the children to play. Then there are various kind of examples of puppetry in the animal figurines also. In the slides you can see the human figurines from Dholavira, and the top one are the human figurines, male and female from Dholavira side, and the bottom right are the so-called mother goddess figurines, elaborately decorated, the headgear, the jewelry, all these things are the very good examples of the Indus Valley people terracotta art. The next slides we can see the animal figurines, how they are depicted, and also the toy cart frames. The right one indicates the toy cart frames. They are hollow toy cart frames, and in which the wheels were fitted upon, and the examples of a hubbed wheel is shown here. So all these things are very good examples of the transport system existed during the Indus civilization, because it is one of the important aspects, because everybody was traveling inland with this kind of wheeled carriages only, either by walking or by wheeled carriages. And this is an example of a puppetry. It's a bull figurine from a site known as Karanpura in Rajasthan. Here the head portion is missing, but there is a hollow portion in which the head was prepared separately and fitted here, and there are grooves by the side of the hollow portion, and through the hump a thread was inserted and the head could be pulled front and back. So this is an example of a puppetry. Another important aspect of the Indus civilization is the lapidary. They were making a wide variety of beads of various materials, and this tradition started very early from the Neolithic Mehergarh of the Balochistan area, and from there gradually they procured raw materials from various regions, from Balochistan, from Gujarat, from northern part of Pakistan and various other regions, and particularly Gujarat region, it has a wide variety of silicate raw materials, and many sites with the bead manufacturing evidence have been found from Channudado, Dholavira and Lothal, and there are very wide variety of materials. As I told you, it's of agate, carnelian, jasper, quartz, amazonite, serpentine, turquoise, vesuvanite, lapis lazuli. Particularly it is coming from a very far away distance from Shotugai in Afghanistan, nearly 1000 or 1500 kilometers separated from the main Harappan mainland. And we also have an evidence from the contemporary bead manufacturing tradition at Khambat in modern Gujarat, where we can better understand the bead manufacturing techniques, because the artisans, they engage the same kind of techniques and they produce various kind of artifacts. And this is an example of the various kind of raw materials which we find from the Indus civilization context. This is from Dholavira. One can see a wide variety of raw materials. And going further, we have very good evidence of bead manufacturing from the Indus Valley sites. Again, from Dholavira, we have a very good evidence of bead workshops, how they were chipping the stones, how they were polishing the stones, because we are seeing here, you can see the grinding stones, you can see how they were used for polishing, and the stone anvils are kept in the bottom right. You can see the stone pillar members, they are removed from the original context, and this belongs to a late Harappan context in which they were used as an anvil. So these kind of evidences, they are widely available, and how they were manufacturing elaborate jewelry. And in the next slide we can see the elaborate jewelry, how they were manufacturing these kind of waistbands, the multiple road 6 road waistbands. We can see this is from Alladino in Pakistan. We have only 3 examples of complete waistbands from the Indus context. Otherwise, numerous broken long barrel beads of this kind have been found. This etched cornelian beads is another hallmark of the Harappan bead industry, in which red colored beads were painted with white decorations, and they were all drilled with a particular material known as earnestate, the earnestate raw material from which drill bits were manufactured, and they were used for perforating the stone beads, like traditional Khambat bead perforated. Pratap Bhai is from Khambat. He is kind of perforating in the traditional manner, but using a diamond tipped drill, because nowadays diamond tipped drill is available, but during the Harappan period they were using only earnestate as the drill material. So coming to the another aspect of the Harappans, I mean, this is very mundane, like for example bangles. It can be of any material, starting from the very mundane terracotta, which is available very easily, and anybody can manufacture a terracotta bangle within a very short span of time. Just roll a piece of clay, join it together and bake it. So we have thousands and thousands of these kind of terracotta bangles from sites in the Ghaggar and Drishadwadi valleys of the Indus, and we have various examples. Some are painted, some are elaborately painted with bands, and some are rectangular in cross section, some are circular in cross section, with grooves, without grooves. So we have a wide variety of fashionable elements created from the very common material available from during the Harappan period. We have sites named after even terracotta bangles, like for example Kalibangan. Kalibangan in the local language means black bangles. Because these terracotta bangles were found thousands in number on the surface, and due to the action of rain and other weather action, these were turning into black, and the people were identifying this site after the black bangles. Next aspect, it is the seals and sealings. It is a most important aspect related to the trade activity of the Indus civilization, because they had both inter-regional trade. Regions like Balochistan, Punjab, Sindh, Gujarat, modern day, all these regions, they were trading during the ancient period, and also they have long distance trade. They were trading up to Oman region, modern day Oman, up to modern Iran, Iraq. So all these regions were traded, but all the trading activities, they are authenticated with a mechanism developed by the Harappans, with the seals. Mostly they are of stated square shaped seals with a boss on the back, and they have an animal motif, and 60 to 65% of the animal motif is of unicorn, followed by buffalo and other animals. So these seals were used to stamp on wet clay, whether it can be a lock, it can be the door, it can be a big container like I told you earlier, on the black slip jar, inside which they placed the materials, and the mouth was sealed and it was stamped with the seal. But these seals, they are also excellent examples of craftsmanship, how they were manufacturing these seals, how they were carving these very small seals, hardly 1.5 centimeter by 1.5 centimeter, and they are depicting the unicorn, the various kind of animals with a very precision, and also depicting the script on the top. And we have various kind of evidence of other materials also, like in Dholavira they were using a particular type of clay known as kaolinite to manufacturing the seals. We also have an evidence from Dholavira, which may be one of the largest signboard of the 3rd millennium BC, 10 lettered inscription found placed in the northern gate, and each sign corresponding to maybe 30 to 35 centimeter in height. It represented one time it could have represented a largest signboard. And in the next slide you can see the examples of the seals, how the Harappan seals look like, the square seals, and various views are shown here. The boss on the back one can see, and this particular seal is from Karanpura. And the bottom right you can see the sealings, how these impressions are made from the seals, how the impressions are made. From studying these sealings, we can understand the pattern in which the locks were made, how on which material these wet clay were applied, and then the sealings were produced. Then coming to the next one, you can also see the important developments in this seals also, like in the early Harappan context from Dholavira. The top image shows only the image, it's not of any script. No script is depicted on this seal, only a mythological scene is depicted here. Here a deity is shown in between a tree and a nailed figure in between. And the next development is the depiction of both animal as well as script. One can see the typical hallmark Harappan seals, and in the late Harappan context from Dholavira, they are of rectangular seals devoid of any animal motif, and only the script is depicted. So this is a gradual development, maybe taking place for nearly 800 to 900 years, and it is very well documented from the site of Dholavira. And there are some very good examples of large seals and mythological seals are also depicted. One is the most famous so-called Protosio seal from Mohenjo-daro, and another narrative seal depicting worship of a deity from again Mohenjo-daro. Coming to the next aspect, shell objects. It is another important craft activity of the Harappans. Large number of shells were exploited by the Harappans, again found from the Gulf of Kutch and Karachi coast, and they were used for producing various kind of objects. And the most important two varieties of shells are Turbinella pyrum. They were used for bangles, beads and inlay pieces, and another is Chicorus ramosus, that is for ladles and inlays. And we know how they were being manufactured from looking into the manufacturing evidences found on the shell objects. And two important sites from Gujarat like Golodoro or Bagasra and Nagwara, they have given excellent examples of shell manufacturing. One can see the varieties of the shell objects. You can see the Turbinella pyrum variety and the Chicorus ramosus variety, and the bottom right, how after cutting the initial outer shell, the columella, the central portion is left out. And in the next slide, we can see the complete shell bangles, manufactured from the Turbinella pyrum variety. And the next slide, we can see the various shell inlay objects, because these kind of inlay objects are produced from the columella. After the initial bangles are produced, the columella portion is used for manufacturing various kind of inlay objects which can be fitted into textiles or other any decorative portions. Then comes the ladles. Ladles, they are manufactured mostly from the Chicorus ramosus variety, and they are used for various ritualistic and ablutions and other important aspects, and they were exclusively produced from this one. The another important aspect of the Indus craft activity is the faience objects. Faience, it is a refractory material and it can also be termed as a paleoglass, or the ancient form of glass, because glass ultimately developed from this technology only. The Harappan faience, it was manufactured by crushing and grinding quartz pebbles or nodules obtained from the river valleys and mixing it with flux and coloring agents with a process known as efflorescence. The Harappan faience, it is also distinct because it has a typical color of blue or blue-green. And we have various other varieties of colors also depicted. There's a unichrome, bichrome, multicolored examples of beads, then imitations of even the etched cornelian beads or the eye beads are there also produced in faience. Apart from the beads, they were also manufacturing bangles, buttons, miniature vessels, animal figurines. All these things they have been produced, and we know from a variety of sites how this was manufactured also. And an important site is Mitatal in Haryana. We can have a very good example of faience kilns. You can see examples of faience bangles in the next slide. This is from Mitatal. You can see the blue or bluish green faience. Some are plain, some are with the grooves on the top, some are decorated. So these kind of examples are available from the Harappan context. Next slide, you can see the multicolored faience. They are multicolored faience beads. They were used for manufacturing. And another important aspect of the Harappan civilization is the stoneware bangles. It is a distinct kind of terracotta bangle, but heated in very high temperature, it becomes partly melted and becomes highly shiny surface, and it is known as stoneware bangle. It is again a hallmark of the Harappan civilization. It originated during the Harappan civilization and it ended with them. So we have stoneware bangles in two varieties. One is a pinkish gray to black in color, resultant of reduced firing conditions, and another is a range of reddish shades due to reoxidation. And we have mainly from the urban centers like Harappa, Mohenjo-daro and Dholavira. Some of these bangles have micro inscriptions which may also indicate some ownership records. From the availability of an excellent evidence from Mohenjo-daro, we know how they were manufacturing. It was manufactured using a double canister system and an elaborate pyrotechnological arrangement in which these stoneware bangles were created. You can see the examples of stoneware bangles here. They are from Dholavira and some are nearly complete. Metallurgy is one important aspect in which Harappans or the Indus Valley people, they dominated or they elaborated very well, starting from a very mundane or very naturally available native copper to alloying. They developed various kind of alloying in copper. They're mixing arsenic or tin and producing bronzes. They were also creating or smelting other metals like gold, silver and lead. They were smelting and melting copper ores. They are also understanding the alloying techniques, as I told you, and they were also making a variety of objects using this copper. They were creating implements, ornaments of copper and ornaments from gold and silver. From the evidence of ingots from Lothal and Dholavira, we know how they were producing pure copper from ore, creating an ingot and which can be traded to faraway places. And we know copper could have been also obtained from various other sources in Balochistan, Rajasthan, Afghanistan and Oman also. And they were manufacturing these implements. You can see from the next slides what kind of implement they were manufacturing. Various kind of axes, spearheads, arrowheads, fish hooks, bangles, everything, rings, all kind of ornaments were also manufactured by the Indus Valley people. And another important aspect, like what we wear is very important. What we eat is important. Also what we wear is very important, like textiles, what kind of dress the Harappans could have used, like the Indus Valley people, whether they were using cotton, whether they were using other textiles. So these can also be understood from the archaeological evidence. It is not preserved when compared to the terracotta or stone or metal or other objects, but these are all very, very rare to obtain. Only negative impressions or pseudomorphs of these evidences are found from excavated sites, and some of the sculptures, some of the terracotta figurines, they also depict some dress materials from which we can also understand the kind of dress which were used by the Indus Valley people. However, some of the metal salts, they are very good in preserving the organic remains, and from these we know from Harappa they were using tassar silk for the beads, for making it as a necklace. So we know they were using tassar silk. And from Dholavira also we have an evidence of either cotton or jute. We don't know the exact material, but we have shortlisted up to cotton or jute, in which they were used for stringing the copper beads. So other evidence of impression on clay and metal objects from Harappa, they are also help in understanding the weaving pattern. For example, some of the pseudomorphs obtained from the Harappa, from the site of Harappa on metal implements, they have been helpful in understanding the weaving pattern, whether they were following the kind of weaving pattern using the looms which were used in the traditional pattern. That is also understandable. Like tools like copper razor, which are very similar to those used in the modern day carpet manufacturing, it is also found from the Harappan context, from many sites, even from sites like in Gujarat. So from this it indicates that the Indus people, they were also using carpet weaving. And also some of the grooved bricks which we found from the Indus Valley side, they could be the loom weights. In the next slide we see one example from Dholavira. It is a broken copper bead inside which we found evidence of a thread, which was, when it was viewed under a scanning electron microscope, we found it to be either a cotton or a jute. So this kind of analysis really help in understanding the kind of textiles which the Harappans could have used. So these kind of studies are really helpful in understanding the various Harappan craft and activities. So all the evidence or the remains available from the Harappan sites, they really help in understanding the various craft specialization during Indus Valley civilization. The evidence so far, we know that it indicates the Harappans excelled in various forms of pyrotechnology, that is control of fire, and hence experimented with various materials like clay, steatite, agate, cornelian, and others to produce unique and exquisite products. So distinct carving styles were also used by the Harappans, as it is depicted on the seals. Then expression of art can be clearly seen on the sculptures of very high quality. Best example is the so-called priest king, and the evolved technologies for manufacturing faience and for producing various objects of utilitarian and artistic values. So stoneware bangles, we can go on. I mean, we can look from the examples we saw in the preceding slides, we can go on adding examples of the Harappan craft activities like the stoneware bangles, shell, then metallurgy. These things are all hallmarks of the Harappan civilization. Many things they were inherited through legacy, many things they discovered, and it was discarded after the end of the Harappan civilization. So I hope this presentation, this small understanding of the Harappan crafts and arts will help you in knowing a great deal about the Harappan artistic expressions and the technology involved behind that, and which is one of the hallmark of the Harappan civilization. And for further information, you can visit ePathshala website.